The phone rang sharply in Martin's modest home, cutting through the quiet as he stared out the window, lost in thought. Rusty, his ever-loyal companion, now old and grey, lay curled up at his feet. The dog's once boundless energy had softened into the calm vigilance of age, though his eyes still gleamed with the same loyalty. "Martin Brooks," Martin answered, his voice rough with age and weariness. On the other end, Ethan's voice came through, urgent and laced with emotion. "Dad, we found something. You need to come here now." Martin straightened, his grip on the phone tightening. "What's wrong? Are you two all right?" Sophia's voice broke through, trembling but insistent. "It's not about us, Dad. It's about her. Our birth mother." Martin froze. The words struck like a thunderclap, shattering the quietude of the room. For nearly 20 years, he had buried the unanswered questions surrounding that fateful night he found the twins. Questions the children had never dared to ask, questions he had never been ready to confront. "Stay where you are," he said, his voice low but firm. "I'm on my way." Hanging up the phone, Martin grabbed his coat and glanced at Rusty, whose ears perked up as if sensing the tension. "Come on, old boy," Martin murmured. "Looks like tonight's about to stir up some ghosts." As they stepped out into the cold night, Martin couldn't shake the weight of dread settling over him. Whatever his children had uncovered, it was bound to change everything. The twins' apartment was a small but cozy space, cluttered with books, papers, and laptops spread across the dining table. Ethan paced back and forth, running a hand through his dark hair, while Sophia sat, her fingers gripping a piece of paper as though it might crumble under the weight of its significance. When the knock came, they both froze. Ethan opened the door, revealing Martin standing there with Rusty at his side. The older man's face was lined with worry, his breath visible in the crisp night air. "What's this about?" Martin asked, stepping inside. Sophia rose to her feet, holding out the paper with trembling hands. "This." Martin took the paper, his eyes scanning the faded handwriting. The words struck him like a physical blow. "To my dearest children, if you're reading this, it means the worst has happened. I wish I could hold you just once, tell you how much I love you, how much I fought to keep you. But they took you from me. They said I couldn't be a mother to you because of my name, my family status. I tried to escape with you, but they stopped me. Please know, I never wanted this. I love you both, more than anything in this world. Forever, Maya Blackwood." Martin's legs buckled as he sank into the nearest chair, the letter falling from his hands. "Maya," he whispered, his voice barely audible. Sophia knelt beside him, her face etched with concern. "You knew her, didn't you, Dad?" Martin's gaze was distant, locked on some memory long buried. "She was my everything," he murmured. "We met in school. She was smart, kind, and beautiful. But her family." His voice faltered. "They hated me. Said I wasn't good enough for her." Ethan leaned forward, his tone careful but pressing. "Did you know she had us? That we were hers?" Martin froze, his breath catching in his throat. He looked at Ethan, then Sophia, as the realization dawned. "Wait. Us? You mean, she was your mother?" His voice cracked, disbelief and anguish mingling as he tried to comprehend. Sophia nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "Yes, Dad. And you. You're our father." The words hit Martin like a tidal wave, rendering him speechless. For a moment, it felt as if the air had been sucked from the room. Rusty whimpered softly, sensing the weight of the moment. Martin's voice trembled. "You're saying, you're mine? I've been raising my own children for 20 years and didn't even know." Sophia placed a hand on his arm. "Yes. Maya was our mother. She loved you, and she fought to keep us, but her family." She paused, swallowing hard. "They took us from her. And when she lost us, she couldn't bear it. She ended her life." Martin covered his face with his hands, his shoulders shaking. "I didn't know," he choked out. I didn't know. They never told me. I never had a chance to save her, or you. Ethan's voice was tight with anger. They didn't just take us, Dad. They destroyed her, and they destroyed what we could have had as a family. Martin looked at his children, tears streaming down his face. All these years, and I didn't even realize. I've been raising my own children, loving you like you were my own, because you are. Sophia nodded, her tears falling freely. And you're the best father we could have ever hoped for. Even if you didn't know the truth. The room fell into a heavy silence. Rusty rested his head on Martin's knee, his quiet presence grounding the moment. Martin's voice, though still thick with emotion, steadied. I swear to you, he said, looking at both of them. I'll make sure the world knows what they did to her, to us. Maya deserves justice. And so do you. Sophia leaned her head on his shoulder, while Ethan placed a reassuring hand on his arm. We're in this together, Dad. For her, and for us. Part 3, Unraveling the Past. The following day, the three of them sat together at the dining table, the letter from Maya placed carefully in the center. Surrounding it were stacks of documents, newspaper clippings, and photographs they had pieced together during years of quiet investigation. We need to know everything, Ethan said firmly, his gaze shifting between Martin and Sophia. Not just about Mom, but about what happened to her family after we were taken. Sophia nodded. There's more to this, Dad. The Blackwoods didn't just take us, they fell apart after what they did to her. Their wealth, their power, it all disappeared. Martin leaned back, the weight of his emotions evident in his tired eyes. The Blackwoods, he muttered. I thought I'd never hear that name again. Sophia reached for a faded photograph they had found. It was a picture of Maya as a young woman, standing with a tall, stern-looking man and a regal woman, her parents. This is her father, Charles Blackwood, she said. He was charged with embezzlement and fraud shortly after Mom's death. And her mother? Martin asked, his voice low. Sophia hesitated. She didn't survive the scandal. She overdosed a year later. Martin's jaw tightened as the words hit him. So their cruelty caught up with them. Ethan interjected. There's one person who survived it all, Rebecca, Maya's younger sister. She was a teenager at the time, but she's still alive. We found her address in California. Martin frowned. Rebecca? She was just a kid when I knew Maya. She always followed her around, like a shadow. She might know more, Sophia said. If anyone can fill in the blanks, it's her. Days later, Martin, Sophia, and Ethan stood on the porch of a modest house in a quiet California suburb. Rusty, though too frail to travel, had stayed behind with a neighbor. Martin hesitated before knocking, his heart pounding. The door opened to reveal a woman in her early 40s, her auburn hair streaked with gray. Her eyes widened as she took in the sight of them. Martin? She asked, her voice trembling. Is it really you? It's me, Martin said softly. And these are our children. Sophia and Ethan. Rebecca's hand flew to her mouth, tears spilling down her cheeks. You found them. Oh, God. You found them. She ushered them inside, her hands trembling as she gestured for them to sit. The small living room was filled with photographs of Maya, her smile frozen in time. I never stopped looking for you, Rebecca said, her voice choked with emotion. After Maya. After what happened, I had to get away. I couldn't stand being part of that family. Sophia leaned forward. What happened to her? Why did they do this to her and to us? Rebecca's face darkened. They were monsters, all of them. My father, especially. When he found out Maya was pregnant, he saw it as a disgrace. He said no daughter of his would have children with someone like you, Martin. Martin's fists clenched, but he said nothing, letting her continue. They kept her locked in the house until she gave birth, Rebecca said, her voice breaking. She begged them to let her keep you. But they wouldn't listen. They took you away in the middle of the night and left you in that alley. She never even got to hold you." Ethan's voice was cold. "And then?" Rebecca wiped her eyes. "She tried to fight back. She wanted to find you, but they wouldn't let her leave. She fell into a depression, and one night, she jumped." The room fell silent. Martin closed his eyes, his body trembling with rage and grief. "I should have been there," he whispered. "I should have protected her." "You didn't know," Rebecca said softly. "They made sure of that." Rebecca reached for a small box on the coffee table, pulling out a collection of letters. "These are from Maya," she said. "She wrote them during her pregnancy. She never stopped loving you, Martin. She never stopped believing you would have saved her if you'd known." Sophia took one of the letters, her hands shaking as she read aloud, "My dearest Martin, if you ever find this, please know that I loved you with all my heart. They can take everything from me, our children, my freedom, even my life, but they can never take what we had. You were my light in the darkness, and I will carry that light with me forever." Tears streamed down Martin's face as Sophia's voice broke. "She never gave up on you, Dad." Rebecca placed a hand on his shoulder. "She would have wanted you to know the truth. And she would have wanted you to know how proud she'd be of the father you've become." Martin nodded, his voice thick with emotion. "I'll make sure her story is told. The world needs to know who she was and what she endured." Back in Detroit, Martin, Sophia, and Ethan returned with a renewed sense of purpose. Maya's story, as tragic as it was, deserved to be told. But there was still one loose thread: the Blackwood estate, the symbol of the family's cruelty, now abandoned and crumbling. Standing at the gates of the derelict mansion, Martin felt a wave of unease wash over him. The once grand estate was a shadow of its former self, overgrown with vines and marred by decades of neglect. "This is where it all started," Martin said quietly. "This house. It was their prison." Sophia shivered, pulling her jacket tighter around her. "And it's where she lost everything." Ethan stepped forward, his jaw set. "We need to see what's inside. There might be more clues about what happened or how we were abandoned." The three of them pushed through the rusted gates and made their way inside. The air was thick with dust and decay, the grandeur of the past reduced to ruin. They moved cautiously, their footsteps echoing through the empty halls. In a study, they found what they had been looking for: stacks of old papers, ledgers, and photographs. Among them was a torn letter in Maya's handwriting, addressed to Rebecca. "Rebecca, if anything happens to me, promise me you'll find them. They're my light, my hope. Martin will protect them if you can't. Love, Maya." Ethan clenched his fists. "She knew they might destroy her, and she still thought of us." Sophia picked up a faded photograph of Maya holding Rebecca as a child. She deserved so much better than this. Martin, his eyes scanning the room, found a locked drawer in the desk. Forcing it open, he discovered a box filled with legal documents and a small journal. Flipping through its pages, he found entries from Maya's father, Charles Blackwood. One entry caught his eye: November 5th. "The girl is still resisting. She thinks she can keep those children, but she doesn't understand what's at stake. Our name, our legacy, it's all that matters. She'll thank me one day for saving her from a life of disgrace." Martin's hands shook as he read the words. He didn't just ruin her life, he justified it. He thought he was protecting his name. Ethan's voice was icy. "That name means nothing now." Back at home, the family decided it was time to share Maya's story with the world. They contacted a local journalist, a woman named Angela Hayes, who specialized in exposing long-buried truths. Angela listened intently as Martin recounted his love for Maya, their forced separation, and the discovery of the twins. Sophia and Ethan shared what they had learned about their mother's fight to keep them and the Blackwood family's downfall. "This story needs to be told," Angela said. "Not just for Maya, but for anyone who's been silenced by power and wealth. Over the next few weeks, Angela worked closely with the family, publishing a series of articles that captured Maya's resilience, the Blackwood's cruelty, and Martin's journey of redemption. The story went viral, touching hearts across the country. One evening, as they were celebrating the success of the articles, a knock came at the door. It was Rebecca, clutching a worn envelope. "I found this after you left," she said, handing it to Martin. "It's addressed to you." Martin's hands trembled as he opened the envelope. Inside was a letter from Maya, written during her final days. "My dearest Martin, I don't know if you'll ever read this, but I need you to know the truth. I never stopped loving you. You were my home, my safety, and my future. They tore us apart, but they couldn't take what you gave me, hope. If you find our children, tell them I fought for them. Tell them they were loved, from the very first moment. And Martin, if there's a life after this one, I'll find you there. Forever yours, Maya." Tears streamed down Martin's face as he read her words. Sophia and Ethan wrapped their arms around him, their own tears falling freely. "She never gave up on us," Sophia whispered. "And neither will we," Ethan added. "We'll carry her legacy forward." Weeks later, under the soft light of a spring morning, Martin, Sophia, Ethan, and Rebecca gathered at the edge of a quiet riverbank, a place Maya had once loved. The air was filled with the gentle hum of nature, a sharp contrast to the storm of emotions coursing through them. "This is where she wanted to escape with us," Rebecca said, her voice trembling. "She told me this was her safe place. Where she dreamed of starting over with you, Martin." Sophia and Ethan carried a small plaque inscribed with Maya's name and the words, "Forever loved. Forever remembered." Martin knelt by the river, running his fingers through the cool water. "I should have been here with her," he said softly. "I should have protected her." Rebecca placed a hand on his shoulder. "You didn't fail her, Martin. You've given her children a life she could only dream of. That's what she would have wanted." Ethan and Sophia stepped forward, holding hands as they lowered the plaque into the earth by the riverbank. Sophia whispered, "We'll carry her love with us, always." As the family stood together, the sound of the river flowing seemed to carry Maya's spirit, her dreams, and her love. For the first time in decades, Martin felt a sense of peace. The story of Maya and Martin's enduring love continued to resonate across the country. Angela Hayes's articles had inspired a wave of support from strangers who had read about their journey. Donations poured in, offering opportunities for the family to honor Maya's memory through action. With Rebecca's help, they established the Maya Foundation, an organization dedicated to supporting single parents, children in foster care, and victims of family estrangement. Its mission was simple: to ensure that no one endured the pain Maya had suffered. Sophia, with her passion for advocacy, took the lead in managing the foundation. "This is what Mom would have wanted," she said during the opening ceremony. "A legacy of love and hope, not of pain." Ethan used his talents in technology to create an online platform for the foundation, connecting families in need with resources and community support. "Mom's story changed lives," he said. "Now we'll keep changing them." One evening, Martin sat on the porch of their home, a glass of tea in hand. Rusty, now slower but still loyal, rested at his feet. Sophia and Ethan joined him, sitting on either side. "Do you think she's proud of us?" Sophia asked, her voice soft. Martin smiled, gazing at the stars. "I know she is. She always believed in love, in family. And that's exactly what we've built." Ethan nodded. "It's strange, isn't it? How everything came full circle. It's like we were always meant to find our way back to her, and to each other." Martin looked at his children, his heart full despite the lingering ache of loss. "You two are my greatest gift. You brought me back to life when I didn't think I had anything left. Maya gave me that." Sophia leaned her head on his shoulder. "We're lucky to have you, Dad." As the night deepened, the three of them sat in quiet reflection. The weight of the past had not vanished, but it no longer held them captive. They had found strength in their pain, purpose in their struggles, and a profound love that would guide them forward. Months later, the Maya Foundation was thriving. Sophia and Ethan's tireless efforts had transformed their mother's memory into a beacon of hope. The foundation's first major success was reuniting a young mother with her estranged children after years apart, at the foundation's office. The young woman clutched her two children tightly, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you," she whispered to Sophia. "You gave me my family back." Sophia smiled warmly, her heart full. "This is for you and for our mom." She would have done the same. Ethan joined her, holding up his phone. "We've already gotten hundreds of messages from families thanking us for what we're doing. This is only the beginning." Martin watched from a distance, his chest swelling with pride. "They've turned pain into something beautiful," he murmured to Rebecca, who stood beside him. Rebecca nodded. "That's the power of Maya's love. It didn't end, it grew." One afternoon, a man arrived at the foundation's office. He was older, his face weathered but dignified, and his expression held a mixture of guilt and determination. Sophia greeted him, her professional demeanor hiding her curiosity. "How can I help you?" she asked. The man hesitated before speaking. "My name is Alan Pierce," he said. "I was an associate of Charles Blackwood." Sophia stiffened. "Blackwood? What are you doing here?" "I came to apologize," Alan said, his voice heavy with regret. "I was the one who delivered you and your brother to that alley. I've lived with that guilt every day since." Sophia's hands tightened into fists, but she forced herself to remain calm. "Why now?" Alan looked down, shame etched into his features. "Because your story reached me. Because I see now what I helped destroy. I can't undo what I did, but I want to help. Please, let me make amends." Sophia studied him for a long moment before nodding. "If you're serious, you can start by sharing everything you know. We need to make sure no one else suffers because of what the Blackwoods did." With Alan's testimony, the foundation gained the leverage to uncover more cases of injustice tied to the Blackwood family's legacy. They helped dozens of people reclaim lost opportunities and find closure for past wrongs. Ethan's online platform grew into a nationwide network, connecting people with resources and support. "We're building something bigger than ourselves," he said one evening as they reviewed their progress. "Something that will outlast us all." Sophia nodded, her eyes shining with determination. "This is Mom's legacy. It's what she would have wanted." On the first anniversary of the foundation's opening, Martin, Sophia, Ethan, Rebecca, and a small group of supporters gathered at the riverbank where Maya's plaque had been placed. The air was warm, the sky painted with the soft hues of sunset. Sophia stepped forward, holding a bouquet of flowers. "This is for you, Mom," she said, her voice steady but emotional. "We've done everything we can to honor your love and your fight." Ethan joined her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "We're not done yet. But we'll keep going. For you." Martin stood silently, his hand resting on the plaque. "You gave me a second chance, Maya. In your children, in your memory. I found purpose again." Rebecca added softly, "You'd be so proud of them." And of Martin. Rusty, now moving slowly but still alert, wandered to Martin's side and barked softly, as if in agreement. The small group laughed, the tension easing as the dog wagged his tail. Years later, Sophia and Ethan continued to grow the foundation, their impact reaching thousands of families. Martin, now retired, spent his days mentoring young parents who had faced struggles like his own. Rebecca remained a steadfast ally, sharing her sister's story with anyone who would listen. The family's bond only grew stronger, their shared pain transforming into resilience and love. Though the scars of the past would never fully fade, they had built a future that honored Maya's memory in every way. One evening, as they all gathered around a campfire near the river, Martin looked at his family, his children, his sister-in-law, and even Rusty, who dozed peacefully by the fire. "We've come so far," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "And I know Maya's watching over us. She'd be proud." Sophia smiled, leaning against her father. "She'd be proud of you too, Dad. You never gave up on us, or her." As the fire crackled and the stars filled the night sky, the family sat in quiet reflection, their hearts full of gratitude for the love that had carried them through. Maya's legacy lived on, not just in their actions, but in the lives they touched, proving that even in the face of unimaginable loss, love could endure, heal, and transform.